So, what will you do when you have to make a choice between two options? Selecting the better one of the two would be obvious, isn't it? But this would be possible only in familiar situations. Now, what if you don't know your choices? How will you decide then? What if you were traveling and given the option between two places to explore, both which are unknown to you? And when you choose one, you don't know if your choice is right or not. You may never even know. So this brings me to the poem that we will learn about today, The Road Not Taken. Now this poem elaborates upon the narrator's indecision and uncertainty about making the choices he makes in life. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now this is a poem very relatable to our lives, won't you say? So without wasting any time, let's go stanza by stanza and understand this poem a little better. Let's take a look at the first stanza, shall we? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Now in this first line of the poem, we see the poet is describing that when he was walking on the road, he came across a split or a diversion which led to two roads ahead, or you might even call it a fork on the road. In the next line, there is a tone of regret in the poet's voice when he says that he is sorry. Even though he wishes to travel on both the roads, he will have to choose one to move ahead. And now that he has realized it, he is standing at the fork, trying to choose which path he should take. In the fourth line, we see that he is trying to see where the roads go, but he can only see up to the first bend, as his view is obstructed by the undergrowth. Now, undergrowth is small plants and greenery of the woods. So now let's go back to the first line. What do you think the poet meant by yellow woods here? Do you think it's because the woods were yellow in color? Of course you don't. That's not the case at least, but yellow woods here mean that it is the fall season. Now fall is a season which lies between summer and winter, and in this season the climate gets cooler and the leaves turn different colors. Now, before you get into the dreamland of the fall season, let's take a look at the last words of each of the lines of this stanza. Which of the words sound similar in the stanza? Can you tell me? Would, stood, could. Both, undergrowth. Lovely. Now that's an interesting rhyming pattern. I want you to keep it in mind. We shall elaborate upon this at the end of the poem. Okay? Great. Moving on. Let us understand the language that the poet has used in this stanza. So here the two roads signify the number of choices we have in our lives. And we have to pick one of them, and sometimes we feel very unsure at times. So I'm sure you must have faced this before. Let's say the hobby you didn't pursue, or the class you didn't take even, or the words you didn't say. I am sure that you had to make such choices just like the poet had to do in this poem. But let's not think too much about that, and let's see what the yellow wood symbolizes here. Here the yellow wood symbolizes the autumnal forest. These are examples of a metaphor. Why? Well, because the poet makes an abstract comparison between them. Now, a metaphor is a figure of speech, you know that, but it describes an object or an action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. Simple? With this, we come to the end of the poem. But there is still a little more to go. Do you remember the rhyme scheme I was talking about for you to keep your eye on? Well, what is a rhyme scheme? A rhyme scheme is a pattern of rhymes at the end of each line of a poem. It is usually referred to by using letters A, B, or C to indicate which lines rhyme. Lines designated with the same letter all rhyme with each other. Now look at the last words of each of the lines in each stanza and let's mark the words that sound similar. Ready? In stanza 1, it would be would, stood, could in the first, third and fourth line, and the words both, growth in the second and the fifth line. So, if we mark the lines in the first stanza, they will be two roads diverged in a yellow wood, A, and sorry I could not travel both, B, and be one traveler, long I stood, A, and looked down as far as I could, A, to where it bent in the undergrowth, B. So now the rhyme scheme that we get is A, B, A, B. And this rhyme scheme can be seen throughout the poetry. Let us sum up the poetry really quick. Tutormate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store.